way or the other, I will leave radio.
Savage.
Michael Savage. Afternoons 3 to 7 on Talk 910 KNEW and online at 910KNEW.com.
Coming up next from San Fran Freak Show, The Savage Nation. From Talk 910 KNEW.
With Michael Savage, I can relate to him.
The Savage Nation. Weekday afternoons 3 to 7. Talk 910 KNEW.
Warning. The Michael Savage Show contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
Now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Here is Michael Savage.
We've been talking about the Obama administration and their spying on Americans in order to push their plan for socialized medicine. I want you to hear Major Garrett, a smart reporter and a brave one from Fox News, who confronted Obama's press lackey on this issue. Listen.
I have received emails from people who did not, in any way, shape, or form, seek any communication from the White House, who have never registered on OFA, who have never registered on a campaign website for the... Let me finish my question.
But let's be clear. But let's be clear before you... I'm going to give you a chance to finish your question. You've done this a couple of times, Major, and I just want to be very clear, okay? OFA... No, don't look funny. OFA, whether Obama for America or Organizing for America, has nothing to do with, never has had anything to do with what if you sign up through whitehouse.gov to receive emails. So let's just the reason I interrupted you because I want you to rephrase your question that doesn't continue to assume that somebody is violating the law.
What a lowlife, what a slime mold as Gibbs is. He won't even give a straight answer. But what was amazing was the response from Pat Caddell, a former Democratic strategist who even worked for Carter. Even Caddell was shocked by what the Obama administration is doing.
This is really dangerous ground. Look, above all things, I'm a civil libertarian. Liberty is very important. Do not trust governments, whatever you do. That's having been close to them. This White House, what they are doing, and we saw it in the clunker program, something is going on. This notion that they can track people and use people is going to infuriate Americans to pretend and to do it, first of all. They should understand this is dynamite.
And he made an excellent point. What if this had been the Bush administration? What would the left be saying now?
Can you imagine if George Bush, what people like me would be doing, and what people in that press room would have been doing, if this were George Bush and Karl Rove sending the emails, they would not be sitting there like sheep. I cannot believe how sensitive they are to public opinion. You're the president, you should not refer to people through the DNC as mobs and put that on TV. You should not, on the one hand, then say, oh, I'm for free discussion, but, this is all right over here. Look, this politics by the Chicago way, the president's above it.
Bravo, Pat. At least there's one honest liberal left in the media. John in Connecticut, line 5. Go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation.
Yeah, how you doing, Michael? One of the reasons why we don't listen to or expect to hear the arts and entertainment from you and others is basically we're getting from other places, and I can get my arts and entertainment and go to museums and get that type of thing from other sources, and it's pretty unspinnable from my perspective. We listen to you for direct commentary on politics and finance and other things like that.
Okay, I understand that, but what if a person who is on the right side of the dial, as I am, goes to a museum or an art show and I talk about it? Why is that not of interest? In other words, seeing an art show from the conservative perspective. I'll give you an example. San Francisco once had a pretty good set of museums here. Most of them have been taken over by radical leftists who put on some of the most abominable exhibitions imaginable, such as a series of dresses and clothing worn by some old woman who had a lot of money. They actually put on an exhibit of the woman's shoes, her dresses, her clothing. And I went there, and I think rather hysterically ripped the exhibit apart. I thought that was political and artistic.
I agree. I know there's a lot of other examples of that kind of garbage out there. And, I mean, I've heard about it in New York City. Occasionally there's been art shows where they've, we've heard all about them. But,
well, that's what I mean. I'm not going to just talk about art to sound intellectual or to sound like a pseudo-intellectual. But when they do an exhibit in a museum about a woman's shoes, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And I said, this is an example of what's going on in museums today. Now, that's what I mean by covering the arts. Now, of course, in passing, I'll also talk about one of the finest oceanic collections in the world, which happens to be in the museum here, but the best one is in New York City, the Rockefeller collection. You've probably seen it yourself.
And we appreciate the interjection occasionally, but for the most part, mainly we're looking for, the direct...
All right, so what you're saying in a nice way is lay off the art crap and stick to politics.
I don't mind the art commentary occasionally, but I can get that from other places. What I can't get is direct commentary on politics. It's always spun in other places. That's why we come to you, because you
but listen, here's the thing. I come on late in the day in New York on the East Coast. I come on late afternoon in the Bay Area on the West Coast, and in between the rest of the country. You've heard it all. Haven't you heard it by now from the golfer, the wall banger, and the hemorrhoid? Haven't you heard everything about health care, or you don't have the time to listen earlier? Is that what you're saying?
We get it a little bit, but you give us a little bit different perspective. Appreciate your perspective on things. The way that you bring in your background with the botany and things like that.
All right, so you want me to focus almost entirely, as I've done for 15 years, on politics and lay off the other stuff?
Flavor occasionally, but I do.
I hear you. I don't know if I can do it anymore, though. I'm making an admission, John. I think after 15 years of it, I'm bored of it. I find politics extremely boring. We know that, look, let's talk about the basics. Obama is a Marxist. Everything about him, if it walks like a Marxist, if it talks like a neo-Marxist, it is a neo-Marxist. Why was it fair game to call conservatives who were behind Bush neocons? Why can't we call Axelrod and Rahm Emanuel and all of the others around Obama what they are, which is neo-Marxists? The answer is because we have no control over the print media in this country. They are neo-Marxists, period. I mean, the slur neocon went on for years when Bush was in power, right? Yet we now have a stalking horse communist regime running this country. Some of them are overt communists, some of them are mild communists, some of them are light communists. There's not one of them who is an American from my point of view. Every one of them is trying to disassemble this great nation. But I've said that over and over again, John. Thanks for the call. If I was a psychiatrist, I'd take off all of August. But I'm not going to take... I mean, the end of August at the Hotel Ozone was an art film of the 1960s. I never forget that title, The End of August at the Hotel Ozone, which is exactly what this show has always been like for me in August. It's so different, August. No one's around. They are around. Those who are around are bored out of their minds. Most of the audience is somewhere else, wishing they weren't. But you look around, anyone who's in the media who can sustain themselves stays in the media. They don't leave. What do they need a vacation for? What are they going to find in Martha's Vineyard that they don't have on the radio and television? Tell me. What's waiting for them in Martha's Vineyard? To rub shoulders with the biggest crooks of our time? What, do you want to play Frisbee with the biggest thieves in the history of the world? Making believe they're nice guys because they're liberals? The robber barons of today, they all congregate in Martha's Vineyard. One green mailer after another. One shyster after another. One would-be Madoff after another, but they're such made men in terms of the government that you're never going to even hear of them. G5s fly in. G550s fly in. Anyone with less than a G5 is not even allowed into the top guy's house. They have to park in Connecticut, and as a matter of fact. If they don't have a G5, they can't even land it on Martha's Vineyard. So, I mean, what's on a vacation? I don't know. And when you're young, the vacation is terrific. Well, if you have young children, I could see it. A grown-up doesn't need a vacation. A grown-up can have a vacation in his own mind. That's the vacation. Unless it's, okay, so it's hot? Yes. So you go where it's cool. I understand that. That I understand. That's one thing. But all vacations are factory work of toot-toot. Whistle blows, you got 2 weeks off.